Hi everyone, welcome to InvoiceNow, the what, why, and how. Today, we explore how the Peppol data format works in business transactions. This video is designed for enterprises with their own solutions that need to be connected to the InvoiceNow network. However, if you are a new access point provider or a solution provider that needs to connect your product to the network, this video can be helpful as well. Let's begin with a quick look at the four-corner model of the Peppol network. The four-corner model serves as the foundation of Peppol's network architecture, enabling access points to exchange data securely and efficiently. The Peppol data format is used in the Peppol network, but where exactly? At the supplier end, or C1, an invoice is created with their own solution. At the buyer end, at C4, the invoice is processed with a different solution using a different format. These formats vary, they are considered non-standard. When the invoice is transmitted across the Peppol network from the supplier access point or C2 to the buyer access point or C3, the Peppol standard format is used. And since the solution at C1 and C4 work on data in their own format, data transformation is required at both ends. While I often use an invoice as an example in this video, note that the same treatment is also applied to any Peppol document. This includes invoices, credit notes, invoice responses, order documents. The Peppol format is formally known as the Peppol Business Interoperability Specification, or BIS for short. Think of BIS as a comprehensive rulebook that standardizes how electronic documents should be structured and validated when they travel through the Peppol network between access points. When the invoice document was first developed using this specification, it contained over 200 elements, specifically designed to meet the European business practices and VAT requirements. The general business practices in Europe and Singapore are the same, but the requirements with regard to tax are different. To meet our needs in Singapore, we created the SG Peppol BIS Billing 3.0, in short, SG Billing 3.0. This adaptation includes some important local modifications, such as replacing VAT with GST requirement, adding Singapore-specific GST calculation rounding allowances, defining Singapore payment methods for invoices and credit notes. More recently, a new version called PIN at SG was introduced. PIN at SG streamlines the data format, making international transactions significantly more straightforward. We will cover how to adapt to using PIN at SG in a separate video. We are all very familiar with what our local tax invoice looks like. Working with IRAS, we ensure that all the key fields required by IRAS map well into the SG Billing 3.0 data elements. The red text you see on screen shows how these tax invoice requirements align with our electronic format. You should also note that there are other data elements that Peppol can carry that are not shown in the basic invoice document. In the manual world of invoicing, the final product of an invoice is either a hard copy invoice or a PDF version of that invoice. In Peppol, the final product of the invoice document is an XML, which stands for Extensible Markup Language. It is an electronic file. Let's call it the Peppol XML. Let's look at how all these business elements come together in a format that computers can process. The Peppol XML acts as a container that holds all the business document data and is transmitted between systems. On the screen, you see two parts. On one side, you can see how the Peppol XML organizes the data in a structured hierarchy. On the other side, there's an actual example showing what a Peppol XML document looks like. This Peppol XML file is what actually travels through the Peppol network. Think of it as the digital container that carries all your business information securely from one system to another. Now that you have the background on the Peppol format, let's get into the how-to part of producing the Peppol XML for sending. I will be walking through with you the process of converting your existing invoice data into the Peppol XML. We start with data mapping, which is essentially creating a bridge between your current system and Peppol XML. Here's your step-by-step guide. Number 1, create an inventory of your current invoice and credit note fields. You find these in your existing system or invoice templates. Your IT team or system vendor can help you with this. Number 2, document all your existing codes. This includes things like currency codes, units of measurement or UOM, and GST codes. Number 3, work with your chosen access point provider to map these fields to their Peppol equivalents. Number 4, verify that your mapping covers all mandatory Peppol fields and Singapore GST invoice requirements if you are issuing tax invoices. Number 5, finally, identify if there are any mandatory Peppol fields that you don't currently have. Work with your access point provider to find solutions for these gaps, which may include pre-populating this field with default values. Once your mapping is completed, you move on to create a transformation module using what is defined in the mapping. The transformation module can be designed based on one of these two approaches. Approach 1, direct generation of the Peppol XML. If your system can generate the final Peppol XML files, you need to be familiar with the formatting requirements, but verify it with your access point provider. Approach 2, generation of an intermediate format. You may choose to output your data in simpler formats like CSV or JSON, and let your access point provider handle the conversion to the final Peppol XML. Sort out the preferred approach with your IT team or system vendor. Remember, whichever method you choose, your transformation module must handle proper data format conversion, correct code list usage such as currency, GST, UOM, and accurate formatting according to Peppol standards. Now, to help in understanding the data transformation better, I would like to cover 4 useful tips. My first tip focuses on ensuring that the complete supplier details are provided to meet the mandatory fields required for a GST tax invoice. Plus, these fields also help your customer properly identify the supplier. The fields to note are the supplier's Peppol ID, legal business name, unit entity number or UEN, GST registration number, complete postal address and contact details, which includes email address and phone number. Tip 2, essential details in the invoice line item. Peppol also provides a lot of elements to support the invoice line details. Let's explore the essential components. Each invoice must capture several key elements for accurate item documentation. These include a unique identifier or code to distinguish each item, accompanied by its detailed description. You need to specify the quantity delivered, unit of measure, and its corresponding unit price. The system also accommodates any applicable discounts that may affect the final pricing. For each line item, you calculate and display the total amount. Importantly, when GST applies, you must include both the relevant GST code and its rate for proper tax calculation. Tip 3. How to use the tax total elements. Peppol requires tax total information in every invoice. The elements capture the tax total amount required in the invoice and subtotal amount for each tax code. This meets the IRA's requirement to show separately the gross amount payable for each type of supply. The elements could also be used to display tax total amount in Singapore dollar when the supplier is invoicing the customer in foreign currency. So far, we have covered elements that are commonly used in an invoice. But here's something interesting. You are not limited to just the mandatory fields. If your industry has specific information that needs to be captured, you can map those to the suitable fields in the Peppol standard. This brings me to the last tip on commonly used optional fields. Through our collaboration with various solution providers and major buyers during their data mapping exercises, we learned that many companies tend to focus solely on their existing fields and mandatory Peppol requirements, overlooking the use of valuable optional fields within the Peppol standard. Let me highlight 2 such fields: the purchase order, PO reference, and the buyer reference. These optional fields serve very useful functions. The PO reference allows suppliers to link invoices to their corresponding purchase orders. The buyer reference field enables automatic routing of invoices to the appropriate parties within the buyer's organization. We strongly encourage you to incorporate these optional fields in your data mapping process. Let me summarize the data transformation process. What you see as a user is usually the user interface of your system, or sometimes printouts of your invoice. As a user, you identify the fields based on what you see. These fields are stored in underlying databases, which field names may differ from what is in the user interface. Your system vendor or IT should be familiar with them. The data mapping exercise is to help connect all these forms of identifying the fields to what is defined in the Peppol format. With this knowledge, the data transformation module can be created to generate the files accordingly to ensure the entire process will result in a correctly produced Peppol XML. A reverse process is used when you receive a Peppol XML from your supplier. The business document is received in the Peppol XML format by your access point provider, transmitted over for your system to extract and load into the correct fields in your system. An intermediate file format such as CSV or JSON may be used. This same process is also done for other types of Peppol documents like orders and invoice responses. That covers the basic understanding of how to work with Peppol data format. Following a good process to map and transform your data will produce good quality Peppol documents. To ensure even better data quality, the Peppol design includes a standard document validation process that is aimed at ensuring the correct data is consistently sent into the Peppol network. How does document validation work in Peppol? Peppol employs the schematron technology to validate invoice data before it enters the network. What is meant here is that the validation is always done by the sending access point. This validation system serves two key purposes. It enforces standard Peppol business rules for invoices and country-specific requirements such as local tax requirements. IMDA ensures that we have schematrons for all Peppol documents that we use in InvoiceNow. Your access point provider plays a crucial role by incorporating the schematron in their systems, evoking the schematron to perform the validation checks on each invoice file before transmitting, and alerting you when any transmission errors occur, including validation failures. For development testing, you can utilize the online validation tool to perform what we call a design time validation by evoking the facility with your Peppol XML file. Validation is essential for maintaining data quality and ensuring successful invoice transmission across the network. For additional support, IMDA has a comprehensive resource portal for referencing Peppol standards. The landing page allows you to select different specifications such as PIN and SG, invoice and credit note specifications, the order and invoice response specifications, and the GST InvoiceNow requirements. The highly technical and detailed specifications published here are important for implementers. It includes the syntax binding documentation that provides essential field information, including available fields in the standard, mandatory status indicators, field occurrence limitations, more detailed descriptions, and supported variable types. The portal also offers several valuable implementation tools such as Stylesheet, convert XML data into a well-formatted readable layout, sample XML files, reference materials for your data mapping process, and schematron files, validation tools for XML generation. The Stylesheet's layout has been designed to mirror traditional PDF formats, ensuring familiar and intuitive document presentation. Help yourselves with these resources as you see fit. We have covered the essential aspects of working with Peppol format. I'd now like to touch on a couple of questions we are often asked. Firstly, how do we include our company logo and the phrase text invoice in the XML? Your company logo and the phrase text invoice are required for paper practice. for the customer to recognize the legitimacy of the invoice issuance and treat it as a text document. However, for electronic invoice, these are not required. The buyer can recognize the Peppol ID, which was registered and authenticated via the Singapore Corpus ID. Question 2. Is there support for attachment, and if so, are there any limits to the number of attachment and file size? The specification supports attachment. There is no limit to the number of attachment, but the network indicates a maximum of up to 100 MB file size. Although the specification itself is flexible, it's best to check with your buyers about their specific attachment requirements. The last question, is there any limit to the number of invoice lines? There is no limit to the number of invoice lines in the XML. However, the XML file size must be less than 100 MB in order to transmit over the network. Although the specification itself is flexible enough to support high number of invoice lines, buyer system may have a limit, causing problems in the exchange. You can discuss with your buyer when you run into a problem like this. We have come to the end of this video. I trust this presentation has provided you with clearer insights into the Peppol data format and sufficiently equip you with the knowledge for your project. Thank you for joining today's session. Have a good day ahead.